The sound that woke me wasn't loud. It was the kind of noise you'd miss if you didn't live your life listening for small threats. A metallic shift, faint and deliberate, like a hand easing pressure off a trigger. I opened my eyes to the digital clock on the nightstand. 2:17 a.m. Tuesday. My apartment was silent except for that single, unnatural sound. I moved without turning on a light. Bare feet on polished wood, the faint hum of the city beyond the glass windows, the kind of stillness that makes every detail matter. And there she was, Maya. Her shape cut sharp against the hallway glow, jacket zipped, bag already on her shoulder. She wasn't sneaking in. She was sneaking out. Our eyes locked before I said a word. The look she gave me wasn't guilt, wasn't fear. It was irritation, as if I were a stranger blocking the exit of a bar she'd already decided to leave. "You're awake," she muttered, hand tightening on the doorknob. "I am," I said. That pause should have been a chance, a moment where honesty could crawl out between us. Instead, her mouth hardened into a line. She tilted her head like she was daring me to speak again. "You don't own me, Mark." The words weren't shouted. They were venom whispered through clenched teeth. "I'll come back when I feel like it." The hall light carved her face into shadow and angles. For a second I thought she might slam the door, but no. She closed it with care, slow and deliberate, the final click echoing longer than it should have. I stayed standing in the dark, staring at the empty space she left behind. My body felt heavy, but my mind was already moving with the speed that used to keep me alive in work I don't talk about at parties. The situation wasn't romantic anymore. It was operational. A breach had occurred. A decision point had been reached. I didn't chase her. I didn't call after her. I just breathed once, steady, and let the quiet return. She thought she'd drawn a boundary. She thought walking out was power. She didn't realize she just triggered the sequence that ends everything. And when she walked back in, it wasn't going to be me waiting on the other side. Morning came like it always does, steady, indifferent. Sunlight bled through the blinds, spilling over the quiet geometry of my apartment. Her side of the bed was empty, but it had been empty long before last night. I made coffee the way I always do, precise and measured. 2 scoops. Filter aligned. Water set to 200 degrees. I watched the steam rise, trying to ignore the cold imprint of the words she'd left behind. "You don't own me." She'd said it like freedom was a weapon. Like I was the jailer, and not the man who had opened his home to her when her lease was up. I remembered that night 6 months ago, how she spun a story about wanting roots, about being ready to build something. She called herself a free spirit then, too, but I thought it meant color in my grayscale life. Turns out it meant I was footing the bill for her. Freedom. The thing about living with someone is the truth leaks out in small details. Late rent, accidentally, spent on drinks. Excuses disguised as emergencies. The faint smell of smoke when she slipped into bed at 4 in the morning, pretending I was asleep. I'd dealt with breaches before, systems compromised, locks picked, firewalls breached. In my world, every vulnerability either gets fixed or it gets exploited. Last night proved what I already knew. Maya wasn't just careless, she was a risk. And risks don't disappear on their own. I carried my mug to the window and stared down at the street 10 floors below. People moved with purpose, delivery drivers, dog walkers, office workers on their way to the grind. Everyone belonged somewhere. Everyone was accountable to something. Except her. She floated from night to night, chasing whatever thrill kept her from looking in the mirror. The strangest part? I wasn't angry. Not the way I should have been. My chest wasn't burning, it was cold, precise. Like a lock clicking into place in my head. This wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. She would come back when she felt like it. And when she did, the terms would no longer be hers. The only question left was how to make sure she understood what it means to choose chaos over a man who builds his life on order. And I already knew where to start. By the 3rd night without her, I'd almost convinced myself she wasn't coming back. The apartment had settled into a strange rhythm, quieter than usual, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. I'd begun to feel the relief of distance, until the sound came again. The deadbolt turning. I was awake before my mind caught up, body moving on instinct. It was 2:04 a.m. The hour she seemed to claim as her own. The lock rotated with a careful slowness, the way a thief moves when he believes his prey is asleep. But I wasn't asleep. I rose, padded barefoot across the cool floor, and stopped at the corner of the hallway. My security system hadn't registered her entry because she still had access. That was my mistake, treating her like a partner instead of what she had become, an intruder with keys. The door opened, and she stepped in. Her makeup was smeared, her leather jacket half-zipped. The smell of cigarette smoke and cheap liquor clung to her hair. She didn't notice me at first. She was too busy tossing her bag on the floor, kicking off her boots with the ease of someone who thought she still belonged here. "Maya," I said, my voice low. She froze. Her eyes darted to me in the shadows, widening for a split second before hardening into something else, defiance, the armor she always reached for. "Don't do this," she snapped, as if the confrontation itself were my crime. "I told you. I'll come back when I feel like it." Her words didn't sting this time. They landed like data points confirming a conclusion I'd already drawn. This wasn't love anymore. It wasn't even betrayal. It was exposure, the kind of exposure that costs people their careers, their safety, their lives. I stepped forward into the light, calm as the floor beneath me. "You're right," I said. "I don't own you." Something in my tone unsettled her. She tilted her head, suspicion flickering across her face. "But you don't own me either," I continued. "And starting tonight, this place is no longer yours to walk in and out of." She blinked, caught between anger and unease. "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer. Not yet. I just let the silence stretch until it pressed against her like a wall. Because the decision had already been made. And the next move would change everything. The next morning, the apartment felt different, like the air had shifted overnight. Her boots were still by the door, tossed carelessly, and her bag leaned against the wall as if mocking me. She was asleep in the guest room, sprawled diagonally across the bed like a squatter who never asked permission. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her. For the first time, I didn't see the woman who had once dazzled me with her recklessness. I saw a liability in human form. Every instinct from my work was screaming the same thing: contain the threat before it spreads. When she finally stirred, sunlight on her face, she squinted at me like I was an inconvenience. "What?" she muttered. "You can't keep doing this," I said. "Calm. Steady. Walking out at night. Coming back whenever you please. This isn't how it works." Her laugh was sharp, joyless. "You make it sound like I'm breaking some law. I'm not your prisoner, Mark." "You're right," I replied. "You're not." That made her pause. She pushed herself upright, brushing hair out of her face. "Then what's your problem?" I held her gaze. "The problem is simple. You treat this place like it's yours to abuse, like I'm just background noise in your life. You said you'd be back when you felt like it. Last night you proved you meant it. And I believe you." Her smirk faltered. "So what? You want me to leave? Is that it?" I almost told her yes, that she needed to pack her things and be gone by nightfall. But I stopped myself. Because that would have been too easy for her. She'd just drift to the next couch, the next wallet, the next safe harbor. No. This wasn't about punishment. It was about resolution. I walked away without answering, leaving her to stew in the silence. At my desk, I opened my laptop. One by one, I began shutting doors she didn't even know she walked through, access codes, accounts, subscriptions. Watching the digital threads sever was like listening to locks fall into place. She thought the choice was hers. That she could come and go, that freedom meant never facing consequences. But choices come with costs. And when she finally realized that, she'd be standing at my door. And I wouldn't be the one opening it. Friday afternoon. The buzzer rang, and I already knew who it was. My security feed lit up with her face, pale, frantic. The confidence burned away. She was at the front desk, arguing with the doorman, pounding her fist against the counter like a child denied candy. I told him to send her up. The hallway outside my door echoed with hurried footsteps, then silence. A single breath before the bell chimed. I opened it. Maya stood there, hair unkempt, mascara smudged, eyes wide with the dawning realization that her grip on my world had slipped. She opened her mouth, but the words stalled when she saw who was behind me. General Miller stepped into view, arms folded, posture rigid as stone. Even in civilian clothes, he radiated command. Her face collapsed. "Dad?" It came out as a whisper. "You didn't think this would stay hidden forever, did you?" His voice carried no anger, only weight, like a verdict already passed. She looked at me then, betrayal written across her face. "You called him? You had no right." "No," I said, calm, steady. "I had every right. This is my home. You forfeited it the moment you walked out at 2 in the morning and told me you'd come back when you felt like it." Her hands shook. She turned to her father, pleading. "This isn't fair. He's controlling, he's twisting everything. Enough." The general's tone sliced through her protest. "I've heard this song before. Different men, different excuses. Always the same ending." She froze, as if the floor had opened beneath her. I gestured to the neat stack of boxes lined against the wall. "Your things are packed. You'll be leaving with him tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock. Her lips trembled, caught between fury and despair. "Mark, please. I was stupid. I can fix this. Don't do this to me." I met her eyes one last time. "I'm not doing this to you. You did it to yourself." The silence that followed was suffocating. No shouting, no slammed doors, just the quiet collapse of a life she thought she controlled. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't in months. Freedom. It's been 3 months since that afternoon, but I can still hear the hollow echo of the door closing behind her. Not slammed, not forced, just shut, final and irreversible. The apartment feels different now. Cleaner, quieter, but not empty. It's the quiet of order restored, of air moving freely through rooms no longer weighed down by tension. I wake in the mornings to light spilling across unrumpled sheets, not to the smell of smoke clinging to someone else's skin. The silence is no longer oppressive. It's mine. People ask if I miss her. The truth is I don't miss her. What lingers is the recognition of how much I allowed in, how many red flags I folded into paper cranes and called beautiful. It wasn't love that blinded me. It was hope, hope that chaos could become color, that instability could be charm. I know better now. Maya hasn't contacted me again, though word travels. A friend of hers slipped once, and said she was working a job she hated, living under her father's roof, stripped of the illusions she clung to. Maybe she'll change. Maybe she won't. That's no longer my burden to carry. The revenge, if you want to call it that, wasn't the moment she saw her father in my doorway. It wasn't the pleading, or the anger, or even the silence that followed. The real revenge was subtler. It was in reclaiming my life piece by piece, closing the breaches she had slipped through. It was in reminding myself that my home isn't a hotel, my stability isn't a safety net, and my trust isn't free. These days I see someone else. She's steady, deliberate, the kind of person who makes coffee before I wake and talks about building things that last. When she stays, she doesn't sneak out into the night. She stays because she chooses to. And in that choice, there's no control, no ownership, only respect. Maya once told me I didn't own her. She was right. But she forgot the truth on the other side of that sentence. She didn't own me either. The moment she walked out believing she did, the game ended. She just didn't hear the silence when the final lock turned.